Beautiful morning slash rising from Austin, Texas, and with my dear and beloved friend called.
Nanette.
Oh my god, yes. So, Nanette and I are going to our third day on Art of Sacred Intimacy with John Wineland, a program, an initiation into sacred intimacy, to the art of polarity and loving. So, yeah, we're gonna talk about that and a little bit of how intimacy and boundary setting and everything else in our lives is reflective on this, because I think all personal development events and programs can stay there if they're not reflected upon them.
Yeah, I think integration is definitely the most impactful out of any program. That's really where the magic happens. It starts in that room, but if you don't take time to reflect on those things or practice those things, so integration.
Yeah, so I want to start with that big circle of, I think it's Barry Martin. I don't know the name of the person. Do you know the name of the person, that the graph that they showed us?
Oh, it was a woman though.
Well, it's a woman that talks about 4 levels of consent, or 4 boundaries and things of consent. And basically, there's people that serve, there's people that take, there's people that allow, and then there's people that receive, right?
Yes.
So you can be in all of those quadrants within consent. And I believe that many people, or this is what they told me, that many people are too much into one side sometimes, and others are too much in the other side. So many people are comfortable like giving away stuff. Many people are comfortable taking stuff from people, and when there's not a balance of that, that's what like breaks polarity, or that's what like breaks the relationship in a way. What do you think? Where are you most um, closer to? Are you more of a like a person that takes stuff from people, or a person that like likes to give?
I found myself more on the spectrum of liking to give, felt more comfortable to me than the taking. And, it's been the reflection of like where else does that show up in my life, because it is an intimacy, but that is something that can show up everywhere, not
Totally,
just in the bedroom or with another person in intimacy.
totally. Yeah. So let me. Sorry for changing your frames for that, but I will be
But if I remember
consider.
correctly, you raised your hand that you were totally comfortable in the take.
Yes, I'm a server, and I'm also a taker. So I like to take things for my own benefit, and at the same time I get immense pleasure for giving someone that people wants. So both, for me recently it's been like that. Or I think all my life it's been like that, because I've always had like ambitions, and I think this is also tied up with ambitions, like getting what you want in life. But I've understood that many times, and this can be transactional in a way, but for me getting what I want from people, I have to do something. So it sometimes it doesn't have to be that way. That's what I'm learning. Like the biggest lesson that I'm learning in this program is you can ask for what you want without having to give something in return.
Yeah, like a intentional receivership
Mm-hmm.
of that.
Mm-hmm. And it's okay if you want to give back to something, but also sometimes, but us trying to give back something that they're giving us like in a too fast, or like in a too quick way, we become a little, and we can tie this up to bridge the workshop that we did, is like we become people pleasers, or we think like we owe something to the other
Mm.
person, where that's not really the case.
And
Where do you think that appears more in your life?
well, just going back to what you were saying, I think in that room too, as people were, giving or serving or receiving, it's like, is there also a performance aspect to it, which also kind of ties into bridge, because at some point it's like you feel like, okay, this person is asking this and needing this, but is it actually coming from your heart, or are you performing to satisfy that person, like the need, and I think channeling that and meeting your resistance in that, like, performer or a pleaser, and challenging yourself to come back to your heart to give that, has been very interesting.
And what are the ways that you are learning to go out of your comfort zone into more of the opposite of what was given to you? So instead of giving, how are you like taking in a way?
I think that's where my biggest breakthrough this weekend has been, is noticing that there's an expectation that I can lead what I want in maybe a nonverbal way, where maybe I have an idea in my mind of what I want, but to be able to verbalize that and be direct in my wants is challenging. It's been challenging for me, without prompt, and luckily I've had really good partners that have pulled that out of me and had asked very good questions of like, oh, okay, like I see that this is, kind of what lights you up, what if we do this? And so that's been nice, but yeah, I going back to that, it's like I think the breakthrough is just realizing, what are my wants, and how can, not just in intimacy, outside of intimacy, be very direct in knowing what I want, and taking action on that, vocalizing it. And in that want, a second layer to that is the boundaries, right? And it's just noticing too that without establishing like what you want as well, there's no establishment of boundaries within that either, for myself.
Yes, that's something that I really like what you said right there. When there's no set of boundaries, the other person is has to be more artful and more practiced
Yeah.
into the things of trying to test what you want, because you might have boundaries show just by your presence, and the more boundaries you take, it might seem as like, oh, you're super restricted, but it actually, and this is another phrase that I found in an art book once, that it's limits open up creativity or something like that.
Mm. Well, John Weiland, he made a good point last night, in that, where he said, giving your information about boundaries, like you feel like you're letting the other person down, but really it's very valuable information. And he referenced, sailors, right? And it's like giving that weather report to a sailor, like, oh, like, you know, watch out for this. Like, oh, the more information you have, the better you can guide that storm. But you wouldn't know that without actually vocalizing your boundary or your discomfort or whatever it is that can modify that course.
Exactly. So you give lights, weather reports, information, and
Where you think you're giving up. I know, I think the other person can feel like, oh, I'm letting them down, or I'm gonna ruin the moment or whatever it is. But to think of it, the reframe of, this is very valuable information, actually.
but I think also you have to set the stage for that, because if you start setting boundaries with a person that doesn't know the value of giving boundaries, they might get restricted. So, for example, you had this experience with this person, like, I want to try this with you, but that person got offended. where you were trying to invite this person to Art of Sacred Intimacy, and like
Oh, that's right.
they got offended because you didn't give them enough context into what was your intention behind it. So
True.
yeah, for anyone that's wanting to bring this into his life or into her life, and partner's life, know that what you're seeing right now in this video and creating this container and this context for what you want to do in your life, you have to give that context to the other person first before actually sharing the gift of boundaries, before sharing the plans or the ideas, because they are not living in your head.
Why not? Come on. Can we go to the sacred art of telepathy class?
The art of sacred telepathy.
Yeah.
Yes. When we get to the point where we can just share our messages through our ideas and maybe use Neuralink for that, or I don't know. Next level communication. Yeah, but there's this joy of communication. There's this art of communication. I think we should have like more programs and more emphasis into the art of communication.
Yeah.
Because many times people can also go into these workshops and all of these types of work, and maybe the biggest issue is bridging the gap between the real world, quote unquote, and this personal development world.
So, yes, and that kind of reminds me of a conversation I had last night at dinner, because I went to dinner by myself. And the person next to me, I sat at the bar and asked me, what I'm doing in this area. And I told him about that. And I said, I think the biggest challenge, like, coming out of here is, yes, now you have this knowing, but with that knowing will leave a longing to find somebody that's, like, on that same level. And it's going to be hard out here in the real world where people aren't doing the work. And then the majority of the people are not signing up for, or men, right? It's not signing up for sacred art of intimacy. And there's a reason why female practitioner seats sell out, really fast, and then the men, it's like it lingers on till the very end.
Yeah, but I disagree. I disagree that it's just for the men or just for the women, because as a traveler right now, there are not many women that are also like craving that. Sometimes I do see that travelers tend to be more into like this, tapped into something like that, because or a version of this, because they understand this fleeting nature, and the more interactions that you have with many people, the more worldviews you start to see.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's going to be challenging either way, right? If you want to find a partner that is at this level, out in the world traveling,
yeah,
it's hard to share that.
That's why I'm single. Please apply.
Please apply. If only you've taken this class.
You have prerequisite. You have to take one Art of Sacred Intimacy,
resumes,
a bridge experience event, and some fasting.
It's gonna be hard.
It's heavy. It's heavy. I just have to find one. I know that you're out there.
Or be the teacher, right?
And that's another thing. Like, yeah, to what degree can you be the teacher of your partner? Because you don't want to put yourself so much in the position of, oh, I'm the teacher and you are the student, but we're both teachers of each other. And I think that's also a big lesson here, that many times women want to be in a control way just so that they can let go. So they control one moment, but then they want to let go. In this dance of polarity and this dance of intimacy. Yeah, what do you think about that?
The control comes from a need of safety, and so women feel like the more that they control, the safer that'll be, and that's not necessarily true, right? But it is teaching the man, I guess, how to set up that container that can feel safe for them to be expressive.
Yes. Yes, if a woman feels safe, she will let go of control. So for the men out there, how are you allowing safety to occur in your relationship with your partner? and how and where are the moments where you lose that safety, and what can you do to regain that? You can practice awareness, you can practice saying sorry. This was like an interesting thing because there's a lot in things on personal development of acknowledge and like talking about, yeah, like feeling that you weren't, you lost the container or you lost hold. And Kendra talked about saying the power of saying sorry. What do you think about that? Like, do you think when a man says he's sorry, like, is that received well, or is that seemed as weak?
I don't think it's seen as weak. However, the sorry needs to be like honest, needs to come from the heart. It can't be like, I'm just going to say sorry to make this right or make this okay, like to move on, you know? I think sorry is so impactful when it is coming from the heart. It needs that layer of heart. And anybody can see that, right? When it's not, when it's like bullshit, right? When it's just like, oh, okay, well, you just want to move on and like me not to be mad at you and like to just have like the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um,
And also like just repeating the same thing and trying to be like filling your life up with sorry, it's also not gonna cut it.
yeah,
So it's actually changing behavior.
yeah. Because if you're sorry, then that means that you recognize what you did and that you want to make it better and that you're putting action to those words to not make it happen again. But if it keeps happening,
It's a waste of time. Well, beautiful people. It's been a lovely podcast. 17 minutes. We went all the way. We went deep. So
grand rising.
if you are interested in Art of Sacred Intimacy, you can apply below. I'll put the link there. And if you want to follow Nanette, you can also put it there. She's crafting some ideas in the future. She doesn't know yet, but she's crafting it. If you want help with sharing your coaching business, also comment there. And till next time.
Good morning. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Bye bye.